Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I'm going to launch a new program on thermodynamics, engineering thermodynamics, which will not only cater to the needs of BTech syllabus of mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, but also it will meet the needs of the students for GATE and ESE exam. Particularly for GATE, it will cater to the needs of mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and for XC category. Thermodynamics plays a vital role in GATE exam. Questions carrying 10 to 15 marks are asked in each year's GATE exam. This fundamentals of thermodynamics is very essential, very much essential for having a deep understanding of its applications like heat transfer, refrigeration and air conditioning, power plant, etc. So we must take this subject seriously. And so I'm going to prepare a structured program. It will cover each and every topic of thermodynamics. And in this lecture, I am going to discuss on fundamentals of thermodynamics. So, what is thermodynamics? That first question that comes into one's mind is, what is thermodynamics? What is thermodynamics? Thermodynamics can be defined as a science of energy transfer and its effect on properties of substance. So, thermodynamics stems from the Greek word therm. Therm means heat and dynamics means power. Since ancient days, thermodynamics related to the conversion of heat into power. But nowadays, it is no longer confined to conversion of heat into power only. It is now extended to the each and every aspect of energy conversion of energy. Like the power generation, refrigeration, etc. Each and every device in which there is some kind of energy conversion taking place, thermodynamics plays a role. Every principle of every energy process of energy conversion is governed by the basically laws of thermodynamics. If thermodynamics is stable, then two laws, that is first law and second law of thermodynamics, are its two legs, you see. And of course third law of thermodynamics is there, but these two laws are legs on which thermodynamics is strongly footed on. So that's why these laws, these two laws govern each and every process of energy conversion. So what are significance of those laws? First law of thermodynamics is mainly another statement of a principle of conservation of energy. This is no different from principle of conservation of energy. It is just another formulation of principle of conservation of energy. What is this principle of conservation of energy? Principle of conservation of energy. So before going into this, we must know what is energy actually. It is very hard to define precisely the term energy, but it can be defined as the ability to cause some changes. Energy can be defined as the ability to cause changes. Suppose we want to move an object from one place to another, definitely we need some kind of energy to for moving this object from this place to this place. Without energy, no process can take place. just like without sun there would be no earth, and solar power is the source of all energy as we know. So energy just can be defined as the ability to cause changes. So principle of conservation of energy, which even a student of standard 7 knows what is principle of conservation of energy. It states that during any interaction or any process, energy is just converted. Energy is just converted from one form to another. And there is neither any creation of energy nor destruction of energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is only converted from one form to another. This is what the principle of conservation of energy states. Suppose a stone falls from the cliff. And due to action of gravity, it comes downward towards earth. So as it moves downward, its potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy, and the stone acquires speed or momentum during the process of falling down. Here all of its energy is converted when it is on the cliff. It is all of its energy is in the form of potential energy. As and when it comes downward, part of potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. So this is an example of principle of conservation of energy when the principle of conservation of energy is followed. And at no point of time the principle of conservation of energy is violated. So that is why it is known as a fundamental law of nature. Apart from this first law also defines that energy is a property. Energy is a property. So first law also defines that energy is a property. So second law what it does, second law of thermodynamics. So first law tells that energy is a property, and second law what does it do? Second law actually affixes a quality index to energy. We know that the energy has a quantity, but second law also says that energy has both quality and quantity, and it distinguishes between energies. It classifies energy into two categories. One is high grade energy and another is low grade energy. We'll come in detail later on. You see, then any process in nature which satisfies only first law cannot be feasible. So if a process has to be feasible, means it must satisfy both first law and second law of thermodynamics. And of course third law is there, but these two laws are very, very important, first law and second law. Even the principle of conservation of energy is also applicable in our daily life, particularly when we take some food. With food, some calories of energies are we take into our body, and when we do some physical exercise, some energy goes out of our body, and delta E or change in energy during any process, delta E, change in energy content of the body, is E in minus E out. And E in here refers, energy in here refers to the whatever energy comes to our body through the food intake. And then energy out signifies whatever energy is dissipated when we do some physical exercises. If we take more energy than we leave, then some delta E becomes positive, and some amount of energy is stored in our body in the form of fat, which is not good for our health. So that's why the principle of conservation of energy is also followed in our biological process, in our human body also. This principle of conservation of energy is also followed. So There are 2 points of view. One important next important point that we are going to discuss is macroscopic and microscopic approach to study thermodynamics. There are two approaches or two ways of studying thermodynamics. One is macroscopic approach and another is microscopic approach. So what is the basic difference between these two? You see, in macroscopic approach, we focus upon certain quantity of matter, not on its small particles that the matter is composed of. Every matter substance is composed of certain particles called molecules. But in macroscopic approach, we are not concerned with what happens at molecular levels. We are only concerned with what happens at macro level. For example, suppose some amount of gas is enclosed in a container. And when gas molecules collide against each other and against the wall, they exert a normal force on the wall. And that normal force, when divided by area, gives the pressure. That gives the physical quantity, that is pressure. So pressure is force upon area. But that force is resulted due to change in momentum due to molecular collisions on the walls. We know force is rate of change of momentum, and when the molecules collide with the wall, there is a change in momentum, and that when change in momentum, rate of change of momentum, when calculated on a unit area, yields the pressure. But in macroscopic approach, we are only concerned with measuring the pressure by attaching a pressure gauge or manometer to this vessel. So we are only concerned with what is pressure. We are never concerned with what happens at molecular levels, what are the collisions, what is the change in momentum. We are not concerned with these things. So that's why this macroscopic approach is called classical approach. Macroscopic approach is same as classical thermodynamics. On the other end, we know that the properties of matter are nothing but the reflection of the average behavior of individual particles. So that means when we study the behavior of particles or molecules, that thermodynamics is called statistical thermodynamics or macroscopic thermodynamics. Statistical thermodynamics or microscopic thermodynamics. As far as our syllabus is concerned, we are going to study only the macroscopic approach or classical thermodynamics. So fundamentals of thermodynamics, we must know first what is a system and control volume, then only we can go further. So we must know what is a system and what is control volume. So what is system and what is control volume? So we know that system is something, a particular, suppose an organization can be considered as a system, a computer can be considered as a system, but here in thermodynamics, system is defined as a certain quantity of matter or certain fixed region in space chosen for study. study or investigation. You see, system is a certain quantity of matter or certain fixed region in space chosen for study or investigation. That is the definition of system. So what is actually a system? Suppose this is the system, and any quantity of matter or any region in space which is outside the system is called the surroundings. So you can say anything external to the system is called surroundings. You can define like this: anything external to the system, anything external to the system is called, anything external to the system is called surroundings. We said that certain quantity of matter or fixed region in space which is chosen for study or investigation, we will say that this is system. And any fixed any matter or certain जो matter इससे बाहर है, certain quantity of matter और जो region इससे बाहर है वो उसको हम surrounding बोल सकते हैं. ये surrounding रहा. And anything that separates the system from surrounding is called boundary. Anything that separates the system from surroundings is called boundary. Suppose some quantity of water is contained in a water bottle with its cap closed, then it can be considered as a system, thermodynamic system. The bottle, inner wall of the bottle can be considered as a boundary. So boundary can be defined as the contact surface shared between the system and surroundings. And mathematically speaking, boundary has zero thickness. Which results in negligible mass and negligible volume also. So boundary can be considered to have negligible mass and negligible volume. So now we'll discuss about types of systems. Now we'll consider about types of system. So basically there are three types of system. One is closed system, which is also called control mass. Then comes the open system, which is called control volume. Open system is same as control volume. Closed system is same as control mass. And third category of system is isolated system. So first we must know what is closed system. Suppose this is system and this is boundary and this is surrounding. So when there is only mass, there is no mass interaction between the system and surroundings, only energy interaction takes place, then that particular system can be called a closed system. Closed system can be defined as a system of fixed mass. Closed system can be defined as a system of fixed mass. That's why closed system is also called control mass also. Same, both of them refer to the same thing. So control system is analogous to control mass. Whenever only there is energy interaction taking place, energy can enter in, energy can go outside of the system, energy out, but no mass in, no mass in and no mass out. So there is no mass interaction between the system and surroundings, only energy interaction takes place, then that is called a closed system or control mass. And during any process that a closed system undergoes, the mass of the system does not change, mass remains constant, fixed mass. This can be defined as a system of fixed mass. So example can be, suppose we are heating something on a frying pan on stove or gas burner, then it can with its lid when we are heating something on a frying pan, then it is called closed system, because nothing enters in, nothing comes out of the pan, only thing that we are supplying heat. Suppose we are heating a cup of coffee with its lid on a stove, then it is called a closed system. So in closed system only energy interaction can take place. Suppose there is some gas enclosed in a cylinder bounded by piston, there is some gas. So gas is there. If we supply energy in the form of heat by having a burner below it, that means we can supply heat, but there is no mass interaction taking place. No mass enters in the system, no mass leaves the system. So that's why this is an example of closed system. Only energy interaction in the form of heat can take place, and if heat is supplied, this system can expand, its volume can change. So that's why it can do some work upon the surroundings. That means energy, heat and work are the form of energy. So energy interaction is taking place between the system and surroundings, but there is no mass coming in or no mass leaving the system. So there is no interaction, mass, as far as mass interaction is concerned, only energy interaction takes place. So that's why that system is known as control system. So then we'll go to open system or control volume. Open system or control volume. So this is another category of system, open system. When there is both energy and mass interaction between the system and surroundings, then that category of system is called, this is system, this is boundary, this is surrounding. And when both mass can enter, mass can leave, energy can enter, energy can leave, then that category of system is called open system. And most of the engineering devices are open systems. Suppose for example, nozzle, turbine, compressor, pump, everything. Suppose this is a nozzle, so some fluid can enter and some fluid can leave. Velocity just increases, velocity of fluid increases as it passes through a nozzle. We'll come to later on what is the function of a nozzle. So nozzle can be an example of an open system. Turbine is another example. So there is both mass and energy interaction between the system and surroundings in case of open system, and most of the engineering devices come under category of open systems. And in case of closed system, mass of the system remains constant, but in case of open system, there is a certain fixed region. That's why in definition we discussed, we mentioned that this is a certain quantity of matter certain fixed region in space. Certain quantity of matter refer to closed system and certain fixed region in space refer to open system. And so this is here the volume remains constant in case of open system, while mass remains constant in case of closed system. So this is an example of open system. An open system is the same as control volume, and which is abbreviated by CV. And the boundary of closed system is analogous to control surface. If we refer to a closed system, we call it a boundary, and in case of an open system or control volume, this is known as control surface, which is abbreviated as CS. So control surface of an open system is analogous to boundary of closed system. So this is called open system. Both mass and energy interaction can take place between the system and surroundings. And another category or third category of system, thermodynamic system, is isolated system. Isolated system. Isolated system. Isolated system. So this is a system, there is neither any mass interaction, this is system. No mass can enter, no mass in, no mass out. Neither energy, no energy in, no energy in, no energy out. So there is neither any mass nor any energy interaction between the system and surroundings, and that system is called isolated. It is completely isolated from surroundings. This system is completely isolated from surroundings. Neither any mass nor any energy interaction takes place between the system and surroundings. From the beginning, we defined thermodynamics, that science of energy interaction between the system and surroundings. So that's why if there is no interaction, then what to study in thermodynamics? So that's why isolated system is not found frequently, is not found in that, it's not found very often in thermodynamics. So it's very rare in thermodynamics because there is no interaction. But we define thermodynamics as a science of energy interaction. So if there is no interaction, then what we will study in the thermodynamics? So that's why isolated systems are rarely found in thermodynamics, but examples are there. Suppose in thermoflask, whenever if an airtight thermoflask can be considered as an isolated system because there is neither any mass nor any energy interaction taking place. That's why that whatever we store in a thermoflask remains at same temperature for quite some time. Of course, the perfect thermoflask is not there. That's why eventually after some time temperature just changes. So this is not perfectly perfect example of isolated system, but to some extent for some time it can be considered if it is airtight, if no air can enter into it. So this is called isolated system. Both energy and mass of the system remains constant because there is no interaction between the system and surroundings. So these are the various types of systems.